Hello, everybody. I am back with more cough drops and more Canterbury tales because I know that that is what the people want. I am recording this on Monday night, so if you have sent me an email and I did not respond to you, but then I post this, please do not think Mr. Kelly had enough time to read all this Canterbury tale stuff but cannot respond to my email yet. I may not have seen it since I'm recording this on Monday. Anyways, what I want to do today is talk about 4 of the pilgrims that are on the Canterbury Tales pilgrimage in the frame tale. Remember, the frame tale is that bigger story that goes around all the smaller stories that are present in the work. Now, if this was a college course, we would be talking about all of the pilgrims. But luckily for you, if you are not a fan of Middle English, we are not in a college course, so you don't have to do what I did. And we're going to focus on, I think, a few of the most important ones to try to get some of the big ideas about them. Now, one thing that I would stress here is that what we talk about today in this video is definitely going to be on the quiz that we're going to be taking on Wednesday, December 7th. So please make sure that you take good notes and that you can then use those to study as we get into next week. We're also going to have a chance where we have our review day where you get to ask questions about what's confusing. I'm not going to have time to reteach every single thing that we do this week, of course, but I will absolutely be able to answer any questions that you have, especially if there's something confusing about anything that we talk about today or in one of the other videos. So for this, make sure we're taking good notes and then also write down any questions you have for next week. So let's jump into this here. This is our first pilgrim that we're going to talk about. This is the Parson. And so I'm going to post the text of this so you can have that. You can open that up in a separate window if you want to and follow along. I'm going to try to take you through it on my own here, but of course you are going to have this PDF that you can mark up on your own if you want to open that up and take notes on it as we go through and talk about the different pilgrims during this video. I think that would be a great idea. All right, so let's get into it here. The parson is basically, a parson is another word for what we would call like a regular priest, like a pastor, someone who has a church, has a certain area that he is responsible for here. And so the parson is our quote-unquote regular priest. You can see here he has a great haircut. Definitely went to Supercuts. And in our discussion of satire, this is an example of someone that Chaucer is not really using too much satire against. We're going to talk about some other characters that he is, but the parson is who we would compare them to. So it's worth seeing what Chaucer does describing a character without satire, and then we'll see the difference there as to what he does later. All right. A holy-minded man of good renown, there was, and poor, the parson to a town. Yet he was rich in holy thought and work. He was also a learned man, a clerk, who truly knew Christ's gospel, and would preach it devoutly to parishioners, and teach it. That's a pretty good intro there. We really not too much to critique about this guy, right? He's a priest. He's poor, which kind of is the idea there. But he is rich in holy thought and work. That sounds like a priest, a learned man who truly knew the gospel and would teach it devoutly. That sounds great. Let's keep going. Benign, kind, and wonderfully diligent, and patient when adversity was sent. For so he proved in great adversity. He much disliked extorting tithe or fee, meaning here demanding money. And that's going to be an important point to highlight because, as we're going to see here in our other pilgrims coming up, not everybody feels that way about money. But the parson, he doesn't like taking money from people. Nay, rather he preferred, beyond a doubt, giving to poor parishioners round about. From his own goods and Easter offerings, he found sufficiency in little things. Wide was his parish, with houses far asunder. Yet he neglected not in rain or thunder, in sickness or in grief, to pay a call on the remotest, whether great or small. Upon his feet and in his hand a stave, this noble example to his sheep he gave, first following the word before he taught it. And it was from the gospel he had caught it. This little proverb he would add thereto, that if gold rust, what then will iron do? For if a priest be foul, in whom we trust, no wonder that a common man should rust. And shame it is to see, let priest take stock, a soiled shepherd in a snowy flock. Let's talk about those lines here. Actually, it's mostly just this one here. If gold rust, what then will iron do? As Chaucer describes the parson here, the parson is someone who does not just talk about religion, does not just talk about Christianity, he actually lives it. We hear up top, instead of taking money from people, nope, he'd rather give it to them. Instead of staying comfortable, he would go through rain or thunder or sickness or grief to pay a call on the people who were farthest away, whether they were important or not. And he walks the walk. He lives up to the gospel that he's preaching here. And this idea, if gold rust, what then will iron do? If you are a Christian and you see your priest not living according to the teachings of Jesus, then that is a major challenge to your faith. And so the priest here, by saying, if gold rust, what then will iron do? Saying that he has a higher responsibility. As Chaucer says here, shame it is to see, let priest take stock, a soiled shepherd in a snowy flock. He feels a responsibility to set a good example. And it continues here in the next couple lines. The true example that a priest should give is one of cleanness, how the sheep should live. He did not see his benefice to hire, and leave his sheep encumbered in the mire. Benefice to hire here, pay someone else to perform his parish duties. Where were we? Up here. Or run to London to earn easy bread by singing masses for the wealthy dead, or find some brotherhood and get enrolled. He stayed at home and watched over his fold, so that no wolf should make the sheep miscarry. He was a shepherd and no mercenary. Holy and virtuous he was, but then never contemptuous of sinful men, never disdainful, never too proud or fine, but was discreet in teaching and benign. His business was to show a fair behavior, and draw men thus to heaven and their Savior, unless indeed a man were obstinate, and such, whether of high or low estate, he put to sharp rebuke, to say the least. I think there never was a better priest. He sought no pomp or glory in his dealings, nor scrupulosity had spiced his feelings. Christ and his 12 apostles in their lore he taught, but followed it himself before. And really, Chaucer says everything in line 534 there. I think there never was a better priest. In terms of our parson, he is someone who understands the gospel, who preaches it and teaches people about it. But more than that, it's somebody who lives according to it to set an example for the people in his church. And so here, that's our standard in terms of someone who belongs to the church. And it's also very important that the parson's here because Chaucer is going to be critiquing some of the religious figures that do not live up to that example. But it's important for us to note here, and when I say it's important for us to note, I mean it's probably good to literally get down in your notes, that Chaucer is not attacking the church. He is attacking some individuals in the church. And there's a big difference there. Chaucer is not, and we're going to talk about 3 more pilgrims that he critiques here with his satire. He's not saying, well, the whole church is evil, burn it down. No, he's saying there are good people serving in the church, but there's also people who are corrupt. And that's a big difference. And so the parson is our example here of what should a good religious figure be. Let's move on to our next person here.